All right, everybody, welcome to episode 3 of the ChessDojo ranking the World Championship matches. I was going to say the top World Championship matches, but it's just all of them. We're ranking all of them. Today we get to the modern day by my standards, approximately. This is also the post-FIDE era in a sense, even though FIDE has taken control again. Our time period is delineated by the break between the Professional Chess Association with Garry Kasparov leaving FIDE, and then there's a reunification that happens in 2006 through 2008, kind of a messy 3-year thingamajig. But we'll talk about a couple matches that come from that period of time. We are going to be saying which of these matches inspired us, which of them didn't inspire us. We'll give our reasons why. Some little stories here and there if we remember something from these matches. And yeah, how are you feeling today, Kostya?
Great. Super fun. Glad to be back for part 3. This has actually been one of my favorite series to do with you guys because I've learned a lot every episode. About the not just in research, but like during the show as well, which is super fun about some of these matches. It's giving me a ton of inspiration to go back at a lot of these games later on and see what I can learn from them. Yeah, I'm excited for today's show. Yeah. So just to make it clear for everyone, just to get it out of the way, I didn't include, we could still add these if you guys insisted. I don't think you wanted, but I didn't include any of like the FIDE World Championship matches in the 90s. So
right,
that means like Karpov Kamsky, Karpov Anand. I just didn't include these. I feel like we don't recognize these as part of this show.
They're in the not included tier. So
the not included tier, yeah.
Did not place, did not finish, right? Those little acronyms, DNF and stuff.
Yeah.
And let me just say with all tremendous respect to those players, they're amazing, but it's just, it's difficult as fans to consider those true world championships at a time when Kasparov was still active, hosting his own matches against worthy opponents, active. It wasn't like when Fischer gave up the title, then okay, FIDE has to move on. Kasparov was, continued to be active, and we're just going to go with that traditional lineage for the purposes of this show. And also there were some questions with those FIDE matches, like with some player getting to just sit and then other players having to go through like 3 months of candidates matches and then 6 weeks or less to prepare for like an actual world championship. 6 weeks is not a lot of time. So those matches were a little, anyways, that's a story for another time.
Yep. Well, we got into that a little bit also on a previous episode. For those who want to dig through the history of Dojo Talks, we talked about, the best players who weren't world champions. And so we talked about whether or not certain players counted as having been world champion or not. But Kostya, I'm glad you're enjoying this series. I had a feeling it would be good. I thought it was worth breaking it up into this monster 4-part series. There's another part to come after this, folks, you can look forward to, where we'll talk about the 5 very best ones and just rank them 1 through 5, where right now we're just kind of putting them in a tier list and giving our thoughts on them. And the folks over on Patreon also thought this was going to be a good topic, right? Because they voted for it. That's how we picked it. So anyone who wants to pick our next topic, you could join the ChessDojo Patreon. Enough said. Jesse, why don't you kick us off with the first match of the Professional Chess Association?
Great. Okay, this one, I want to tell a little bit of the backstory because it's really important to understand what happens next. And it also affects our understanding of what the World Championship is, which is, in my view, kind of the real interesting thing about this whole historical project, is to frame what is the World Championship. It's constantly evolving. It has historical overtones that reach back hundreds of years. One of the reasons it's such an amazing event. Okay, so imagine you're Garry Kasparov, and there's this whole messy political stuff that went down in your Karpov matches. And one of the things you feel after the breakup of the Soviet Union is you feel you're not making enough money. Okay? They were not making, the FIDE had pitiful prize funds. And so definitely he wanted more money. He also wanted more control. So they created this thing called the PCA, the Players Chess Association. And while this is going on, okay, Nigel Short wins the candidates tournament, surprisingly, beating Karpov. Everyone was surprised by that. Everyone thought it was going to be Karpov-Kasparov number 6. If that had happened, if Karpov had won, this break would have never happened, okay? Because Karpov would have not been interested in this kind of deal. Okay, so Short, however, was. And so he's the one who's Kasparov's enabler, okay? He is the enabler, because without Short jumping ship the way he did, this would have never happened. I was in England 1993 when this went down, and there were a lot of people who were pissed at Short. They felt like, what are you doing? And, you know, for Kasparov, it's like an ego trip, but for Short, it's like, are you really going to make that much more money? You know, what is it that you're doing? And so this creates this massive schism in the chess world. FIDE, of course, isn't going to give up. They're going to keep doing their thing. Even if no one recognizes those world championships that they hold, they're going to just keep doing their thing. And at a certain point, you know, FIDE probably said to themselves, well, Kasparov's not going to last forever. And that's true. And then when that happens, we're going to get the title back. That's exactly what happens. Okay.
Can I tell you something funny about the money details, Jesse?
Sure.
One or two little funny things. So first of all, the prize fund for the last Kasparov-Karpov match in 1990, right?
Yeah.
And these guys have already played each other 5 times. And remember also there's been inflation in the last 35 years. 1990, their prize fund was $3 million.
Okay.
That's more than it is now. And that's not even counting inflation, right?
That's a lot of money.
Carlsen was playing matches for $1 million 20 years later. Oof.
Yeah, they're playing for less. Yeah, in the match in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Now, Kasparov and Short leave FIDE. And one of the things that they didn't like was how FIDE was like doing the bids, which includes like the venue and the prize fund, right?
Right.
Another thing they objected to was that FIDE takes 20%. And I think there was talk this past year about like the FIDE percentage, how much they took, right? And people were shocked that there's a prize fund of, I don't know, $2 million with a budget of $8 million. And they're like, why not just give a bunch of money to Gukesh and Ding? And what is all this? What is all this money for? I forget
Right.
the exact numbers now, right? But so he was pissed about the 20%. They both were. I can't find the exact prize fund for the 1993 match, but I know the 1995 match was $1.5 million between Anand and Kasparov. So to some extent, he split and ends up playing for half as much. Additionally, the PCA took 10% of the prize fund to the PCA for the stuff they were doing. So, okay, 20% to 10%, it matters, but it's a little funny that if that's one of the big issues, to some extent, they're replicating it partially. So I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah. And also,
the money stuff is important often.
And the money is very important. And another thing that's very important that I think is going to will create a huge problem is Garry is kind of at the top of this structure of the PCA. So he has a lot of influence, and that's going to ultimately, I think, crush both him and the PCA. It's his own involvement in it. But we're going to get to that in a little bit.
Be much better if he had some third person, a chess organizer,
a Max Oiva. You know, if he had
somebody who could just who could run the thing and divorce it a little bit from him, so it doesn't really seem like the Kasparov Chess Association, even though you call it the Professional Chess Association.
Right.
And not just that, but also find like an operations manager. You know, Kasparov is world chess champion. He's not like, you know, this like business guy who can just start like running this organization. Like,
yeah, what was that guy's name? Like Karsten Hansen or Hensel? Who was Leko's manager and maybe Kramnik's manager at the same time and organized their world championship match. That was the kind of dude that Kasparov needed, right? Somebody like that who could.
Well, and the guy he had was this guy, I think it was Bessel Koch, this this Belgian dude. And he was a lot of the money behind what was going on there with the PCA. Okay. So this was an interesting match.
Wait, guys, sorry.
Yeah,
so a question. So ultimately, the rift between Kasparov and FIDE was strictly about money, or is there like more to it?
I think money and control.
control.
Yeah.
You know, and to this day, you know, a lot of the FIDE things appear totally arbitrary. We're gonna get to some arbitrariness later, and you know, when you think about like the KK matches and how weird a lot of FIDE's judgments were, or the Korchnoi Karpov, so many weird details that FIDE threw in there. Florencio Campomanes, what a weird dude! You don't want that guy in control. I understand, Kasparov. But Kasparov, buddy, you can't be in control of it yourself. No, it's not going to work. All right, so I think this was a good match. I'm going to put it in the middle. You guys can put it wherever you want. Short did eventually win a game. The famous line from Kasparov about it was, my opponent's name is Short and the match will be short. And that's kind of what it was. Nobody expected Short to win.
Except Kasparov, because he actually said that quote during the candidates when people asked him to prognosticate his challenger.
Right.
And he said, it will be short, and it will be short.
That's funny. I would say that line is like one of the few good things about this match. Because it's such a legendary, like, what an opportunity, and he took it. And I don't think anything has ever been said in any match. Like, usually the players just kind of, maybe back in the Steinitz Zukertort days, there was some trash talk, but it wasn't like quippy like this. Though it was nice to see Kasparov dismantle someone after like, you know, just these like super close matches with Karpov. Not that Short wasn't, you know, a very strong opponent, but clearly not on Garry's level. I would say good match.
Okay.
This was my first year of following chess. And so another line that sticks in my memory is that Short responded in the paper calling Kasparov a hairy Asiatic ape.
Short never holds back, dude.
That stuck with me. So, I don't think Short's the kind of guy where if you say like an insult of any kind, he's ever going to just walk away from that. So that stuck with me as well. And it was like a formative time for me. Obviously, I just discovered chess. I just learned the name Kasparov. I was watching all the games. I was learning the Najdorf for the first time, and he was playing it, of course. That's why I was learning it. But overall, I find the match a little uninspiring when you compare it to other matches. It's such a blowout, and Short, he had a great run to get there, but he didn't play great once he was there in that match.
Yeah. He
got pretty beat down. So I'm going to cast one vote for uninspiring.
Okay. All right, you got me. If we're going to put anybody uninspiring, we're going to put it there, but you moved me. We'll put it uninspiring. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't mean to, but
that's fine with me. I don't really. That's cool.
Okay, so then we come to 95, and this is going to be a little tricky for our friend Anand. Our friend Anand is 25 years old. You would expect him to be at the peak of his powers. Anand's a weird player, though, because I feel like he's not at his best in 95. And the match, you could argue it's kind of close, but really I feel like Kasparov is just way too strong. This is the famous match where Kasparov employs the dragon. Amazing. You know, so I think this was an amazing match, but I don't actually feel that Anand was ready for Kasparov. And we were just actually talking before the show. We got wailed on when we did our top players of all time. We got wailed on for not including Anand in there. We got some Indian viewers, you know. And, you know, to me, it's like if we want to talk about Anand being one of the best, well, it needed to be a stronger match here when he was 25 in 1995, you know. Because there he is having his chance to play Kasparov, who's still at the peak of his game, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely a good match, you know. And also with Anand, we got to say, okay, I want just a little backdrop, you know. So Anand beats Romanishin, Michael Adams. By the way, I feel like Michael Adams was another guy who never made it. And him and Anand, I feel, were very comparable in strength throughout the 90s. And then he beats the famous Kamsky. Kamsky's big chance in a lot of ways.
So Kamsky was the challenger for Karpov that same year. It was a really big year for Kamsky. Like he was going two different candidate cycles at the same time, and because he was winning them, he played something like 6 matches that year.
Yeah, and so one of the things we got to say is this PCA replicated the previous FIDE model. So you have what we call an interzonal tournament. They called it a qualifying tournament. And then they had this match system, which I like a lot. But it's like, why did you break away if you're really going to do the same thing? Yeah. Oh, here's a fun detail. The quarterfinal matches were played in Trump Tower, dude.
Sure, I remember that.
So, yeah. And why is this a little funny for Anand? Because Anand later is going to win one of these FIDE titles. And Anand is going to really embrace that title as being an actual world championship, which we heartily disagree with. We're going to talk more about that, I think, in a little bit.
Okay, but then Anand goes on to win the actual title as well and then defend it a couple times too.
Yes.
So he plays a very important role in the reunification.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. Yeah.
So I think Anand was a good player. I guess you guys.
I didn't say he was not a good player.
Come on. Don't stick 1 billion people on us.
I was just thinking, I was just very grateful that this match even happened. You know, we've missed a lot of good matchups throughout history, but the fact that we even got a Kasparov Anand match, I think is quite nice. And I think it was a great match. Like, I think it was very close at first, and then Anand even won the first game, and then Kasparov took over after that. But still, I mean, that's a lot of excitement.
Yeah.
And okay, if they played later on, then yeah, I guess, then it's like Anand would have been stronger. Maybe Kasparov wouldn't have been as strong. So it's like, yeah, it's hard to find that perfect time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, at every point in time, Kasparov has been better than Anand. So it didn't really matter when they played.
Yeah, probably fair too. Okay. So
I don't think that's true. I mean, after he retired, I would take Anand.
Okay, you would lose your bet, but yeah.
But for sure, it would have been a lot closer, especially in the modern era, and then after Kramnik beat Kasparov. No, for sure, I think Anand would have much better chances.
Okay.
Oh, okay, you guys. So we got to talk about 2000 because 2000 gets really weird.
Wait, but we haven't ranked Kasparov Anand, have we?
I put it in the good. You could change your mind.
I said great.
Okay.
I don't know what David. Great.
Yeah. Okay. So you get to decide, Dave. Which where does it go?
Yeah. So I had written it down as uninspiring.
It's going in the good category then.
Yeah. So it's going to average to good. But to me, it was again somewhat one-sided. And at the time, the match started with 8 draws, which I believe was the record at that time. Obviously, Carlsen has beaten that record since then. Mm-hmm. But at the time, I think it was a record. And for me, the match was exciting basically in games 9 and 10. Anand won the first game, and then Kasparov brutalized him back.
But game 11, dude, was the big one with the dragon. Ba-bam!
Right.
Yeah.
So what is stuck in my memory from this game is Kasparov beating him in 20 moves with the dragon. And that just makes it not even seem like a match. It makes it seem like he's playing a simul against school kids. It's just that game was so brutal and inappropriate for a world championship that somehow that's what just froze that match in my memory as being not a serious match. And the gap with Kasparov was just too great. So Kasparov, when he's playing Karpov, fantastic, right? But once it's getting a little Karpov's getting a little bit older, and now Kasparov's playing the next generation, short Anand, Kramnik, who beats him in a match, but still to me, these guys were just not on his level. So it's just not that interesting.
Let me say, actually, I want to say something about just my memory of these matches for a moment. So one thing that I think chess fans should appreciate is that before 95, okay, before 95, you were waiting months to actually know what happened. It's hard to even imagine, but you would be waiting months. And back in the day, there was Inside Chess in America, New in Chess in Europe, and you'd have to wait for that magazine to tell you what was going on. And so you never got a game by game scene. No, you got like a couple games at a time or the whole match. And so it wasn't something that you could just simply follow. It was kind of like a thing that when you encountered it, you were already seeing it as a retrospective, right? And then 95, you know, internet is there, but only for some people. It was there for me. I was, you know, in Germany at a university, so I had internet access. And then I think that was the early days of like Mig Greengard doing commentary. So you'd see the game. You definitely didn't see it live. That wasn't a thing yet. But
do you know, Jesse, who the title sponsor of the 93 match with Short was?
Remind me.
The Times of London. A physical paper newspaper.
Right.
So that's how those games were diffused or disseminated at that point, was by newspaper. But that was a big step up for us compared to a magazine 2 months later.
Yeah. So totally different. And now I just want to say it's like such a different appreciation for the fans. And like now, for example, we're going to be streaming this next World Championship every game, and there'll be loads of other people doing it too. Right? Loads. And the interest in the last, it's huge how many people were watching. And the candidates tournament, the amount of people watching it live is just extraordinary and a beautiful thing. So it adds to, Magnus, it adds to the power of the World Championship, which you have abandoned, my friend.
So, right. And all the more reason why this Kasparov Anand match is cool, because Kasparov could have also quit after his like 28 matches versus Karpov, you know, and just be like, all right, guys, I'm tired. You know what? You guys have fun with the match. You know, I'm just going to be the number one. But he kept playing. And Anand is like up and coming player of the 90s, right? And I feel like there's insane potential for him at the time. He's like India's first grandmaster, comes out of nowhere, super talented, wins all his games without like spending any time on his clock. So it kind of feels like if Carlsen took on, you know, like Firouzja like a couple of years ago, it's like, okay, I think Carlsen would be the big favorite there and win the match handedly like Kasparov did. But it's like fascinating to see that happen at least.
Okay, but
that's why you guys, I still wake up in the middle of the night sometimes wondering like, how did they, like, what was their logic when they ranked Carlsen ahead of Kasparov for greatest player of all time? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Kasparov played like twice as long. He didn't walk away from the World Championship. He played the previous generation and the next generation. He slew everybody.
Magnus, are you hearing this, buddy? Are you hearing this? Okay, you guys.
I have to revise the rankings. Yeah.
I want to just, because you mentioned Firouzja, there's a very important historical parallel that's about to happen that we got to talk about for the 2000 match. Okay. So first of all, it's important to see that the PCA is toast by 2000. So what happens then? Kasparov's now all on his own. Oh no. He's still recognized as the world champion, rightfully so. FIDE is holding their chump championships, you know, as this is going on. But this is starting to look weird because he doesn't have the money and he has to organize himself these qualifying matches. Okay, now here's where it gets weird.
And he's getting to a 5-year gap in title defenses, right? And FIDE is running their knockout like every 12 months or so, you know? So
producing champions left and right.
He's got to do something, right?
So this is where it gets really weird. And this is where Kasparov really shouldn't have been in charge of things. So in this candidates match, our boy Shirov beats Kramnik. Okay, beats Kramnik. But let's just, a little backdrop. So Kramnik in the 90s, it's important to see because it's hard to understand from the vantage point of the current Kramnik, who is definitely some kind of mental problem going on. But in the 90s, Kramnik was playing some amazing chess. And Kasparov recognized it. And kind of like, this is why I'm talking with Firouzja, kind of the same way Carlsen was like, I see this person and I want a piece of this before I die. You know, that's what Carlsen initially saw in Firouzja. And we all thought Firouzja was going to be world number 2 for at least for a long time. And, you know, he's on his own separate journey now. But at the moment, that's what Carlsen was thinking. And Kasparov was like, sorry, Shirov, you won the match, but I don't care. I want to play Kramnik.
You were just supposed to be a fall guy. You didn't do your job. You're dismissed. You don't get paid because you didn't do your job. You know, the loser of that match, Kramnik, got paid. The winner didn't because they get to play the world championships.
I mean, it's just absolutely insane. And so he gives a rationale that has to do with, oh, we can't find funding if it's you. So sorry, buddy, you're out. And the amazing thing, of course, is that this is going to be Kasparov's end. He's going to lose this thing. He's going to lose this match to Kramnik. Amazing. So it's like he wants a taste of Kramnik and he gets a taste of Kramnik. And Kramnik plays a great match, very cunning match. So it's very important to see that background because it's going to be important too for what comes next in terms of how the World Championship match is structured. Okay. Something I want to put at this point before we rank this match is I think a majority opinion, the way we're ranking these things, i.e. we're discounting or excluding the FIDE championships. However, there are notable people out there who, like Jacob Agard, who are saying, we're fools for this, and of course these FIDE championships were real. So I just want to put it out there. Although we agree here, there is not universal agreement about how to view these world championships. And for Jacob, my understanding of his viewpoint is, first of all, he's friends with Topalov. So if you're friends with Topalov, a guy who says he's world champion, we'll talk a little bit more about it, how you make that claim. It's kind of like, oh, you got to call him world champion, right? And there's a legalistic claim, and it's certainly true. There's a legalistic claim that you could say all these guys were champions because FIDE was the governing organization. For us, it makes no sense because Kasparov's clearly the best player in the world. And the reason it's so important now to talk about is Carlsen, he's still the top dog. Maybe Gukesh is, Carlsen, you could play a match with Gukesh is what we're saying, buddy. But in any case, now we got this ridiculous situation where you got this very strong Indian kid playing the 23rd in the world. So do we really recognize Ding Liren as a world champion? I don't know. It goes back to this, though. It goes back to this.
Have we wandered off topic slightly, Kostya?
What are we talking about? 23rd player in the world. Jesse, I can't believe this is coming from you. What? Have we forgotten who Ding Liren is? Yes, he's wounded, but it's like Ding Liren is like, like 5th highest rated player in history or something. I mean, it's like
who's currently
he's
ranked.
not in good form, but he's.
I think David said 24th. Might be 24th now.
He's a
23rd.
Worthy world champion.
I'm afraid we're severely off topic.
Okay. I just wanted to put that out there because it goes back to this point of who is the world champion, right? And at this point, right, I think all of us agree that even though all this FIDE nonsense is going on, it's impossible to say that Kasparov isn't the world champion, right?
Yeah. And I don't even know why we'd mention any other idea.
But to be fair to Topalov, he didn't win one of those like FIDE like World Cup things. He won like a legitimate, I'm going to put in quotes, soft quotes. He won like a legitimate like world championship tournament.
We're gonna
Kramnik,
we're gonna
everyone
get
else.
We're gonna get to that. Yeah, we're gonna get to.
So it's not like it wasn't the same thing as like someone winning a World Cup and then FIDE calling them FIDE world champion.
Right. No, FIDE switches to a somewhat more robust event.
Yeah, and we have had world championship tournaments before, which Jesse also doesn't recognize.
Right.
Like the
19-ish.
What was it? 37, 48 Avro.
48 Botvinnik.
Okay, I'm going to put this one as great. I think it was an amazing match. I think some chess fans are disappointed that Kasparov lost because he's such a great player. But Kramnik, it's important to see, by the way, I want to stress this with Kramnik. Like the Kramnik up to this point is, I think, of a much higher quality than the Kramnik we're about to see in the coming years. He ends up getting this arthritic condition that's slowly degenerative. I don't know if it's affecting his mind even today, but this is definitely a problem for him in the period right after this match, right? And so he has to go to treatment. He stops playing as much. In any case, I just want to stress the Kramnik of, let's say, 1997, 96 to 2000. Wow, dude. Oh, wow. What games. What amazing games. So I'm going to put that as great clash of generations.
Okay. I disenjoyed this match more than any other match ever, pretty much.
Wow.
Because Kasparov was my idol and he was losing. Kind of like, Jesse watching Smyslov lose a match or something, right? Like it really hurt. Additionally, my chess is designed to emulate Kasparov's chess, right? And Kramnik's chess is very opposite and antithetical to that, right? So he plays a very negative style of chess and a very negative style of match strategy here. It's effective, right? But the legacy of this match is the ability to draw a million games, the ability to kill the game, even with black, right? Before this, some people thought like, oh, maybe you can kill the game with white, right? Kramnik was like killing the game with black. He put the move 1e4. Not just he put Kasparov out of commission, right? But he put the move 1e4 out of commission for like 20 years with the Berlin Wall. And that's the legacy of this match partly, right? The Berlin Wall, the end of e4, and a whole new era in chess. I hated watching it. I hated, just Kasparov stymied every game a draw. That's not where I wanted chess to go. But it's where chess went. The match is super important for chess, right? And in terms of the legacy and the importance of the match, it's one of the most significant matches of all time, and it kind of, ending the Kasparov era and all that. So I hated the match, but I still recognize that it was a very good match. So I would rank it a high good.
And I just want to
a high good.
A high good. I want to defend the Berlin for just a second. What a great conception. You got the
still
bishop.
Holds up. Yeah, amazing.
And it's not like Black's just making a draw. No, it's a big fight. Black can play for win, and Kramnik won as Black. He won as Black with the Berlin. Amazing. What an amazing opening. By the way, I just want to give a quick shout out. Something I didn't appreciate. We had this last weekend, we had the Alex Scherzer Memorial, my boy, back in the day. And I didn't understand. He was one of the first to champion the Berlin back in the early 90s. So there's just a little historical tidbit. I didn't know that. Okay, Kostya, where are you putting this bad boy?
Yeah. So for me, to be honest, this match is epic, and it was the first match I thought of in this period as epic. I mean, unquestionable for me. I'm surprised you guys both talked it up so much. I thought you were both going to rank it. I thought David was going to rank it as epic. He said this is one of the most. I don't even have to hype it up. He said this is one of the most important matches in chess history. It's the fall of the king, the greatest player of all time. Yeah. And then the story behind the match is Shakespearean, as Jesse put it. He chooses his challenger, and that's the guy that ends up beating him, the guy that he invited into his camp to work as his second, because Kramnik was so talented, the guy that Kasparov vouched for to put on the Olympiad team when he was an FM, and then ended up crushing the whole thing and like winning a gold medal on his board. It's and that's the guy that ends up taking down Kasparov in what I would say like one of the greatest match strategies of all time. Not the most exciting, of course, but in terms of like blocking the greatest player and like choosing an opening where, back then the engines absolutely like trashed the Berlin, but realizing that the types of advantages that white is getting in the end game would not suit a player of Kasparov's style. It's like just ended up being ingenious. And then of course, Kramnik, I think, played extremely well in the match. I think he won like 2 games, like really nice fashion. And then since then, chess has totally changed. Like Berlin is still around, and then this match strategy of like drawing with black, this has just become completely standard.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it was just like incredible match for me. So I couldn't rate it higher.
Okay, let me just say, for me, epic is a big word. And for me, either someone has to die at the end or there has to be world historical import. You know?
Kasparov lost his title.
Pretty close to dying. But I think even bigger than an individual chess player is 1E4, comma, best by test. Let it rest in peace now. Like,
oh, come on. You could still play E4. You just have to learn how to play the end game, my friend. Okay.
Also, you can't play it in a world championship match. There's a lot of players who are good players who can play the end game, and they didn't play E4 again in the world championships for like 20 years.
All right, David, it's your choice then. If you want to move it to epic, because you said high, whatever.
High good. I hate the match, but I know it's important.
Then just keep it as great, though.
I'll be convinced by Kostya. It's just my bias, and it's definitely the best match we're talking about today. So sure, you can put it as epic.
All right.
Let's go. Also, I was thinking one thing about this match. Sorry, last thing I thought was interesting is that at the time, Kasparov, of course, is like undisputed world champion. It's kind of an upset when Kramnik beats him.
Oh, yeah.
But I was thinking about it, and it's like Kramnik wasn't the first player to beat Kasparov, technically. Technically, in a match, it was Deep Blue a couple of years ago. The first time someone or something beat the world champion in like a real match. And I kind of feel like maybe that would give you at least some hope going into it, that Kasparov is not as invincible. Because at the time, engines, of course, are very, very weak, but like getting stronger. And then maybe they're seeing like, okay, now maybe engines are actually stronger. So maybe Kasparov is not the oracle of chess. Maybe there's an even higher power. Maybe he is beatable. And I know they were using a lot of engines to prep the opening. I don't understand how they were doing it because the engines were like hating on the Berlin. So like, how do you prep the opening? But I don't know. I thought that was kind of an interesting detail worth mentioning.
Yeah. And I am generally a fan of upsets, you know, like the point of playing a match is that the underdog should have some hope. Should be possible. So, okay, let's keep going. Let's roll on. 4 more years before Kramnik gives a rematch. One of the things I also hate is that he doesn't give Kasparov a rematch. I mean, there should have been a second. There should have been a rematch there. Kasparov gave Karpov, 5. So
well, okay, but let's talk about that. So Kasparov basically refused to do any of the qualifications. So it was Kasparov who had the chance, dude, to come and do the qualifications, and he like refused. So like back in the day, Karpov worked his way back up to challenge again, and Kasparov was like, "No, I'm too good. Just let me in."
I think once again, it shows that when people are angry, they really only hurt themselves more than other people, right? Like he should have just swallowed it and played the qualification. Just like, if Carlsen wants to play Gukesh and they tell him, oh, well, just, here's the candidates tournament. And he's like, no, I'm too good for it. And like refuses, he'd only be hurting himself, right? He should play the candidates tournament. Why not?
I think it was only one match. It's kind of an interesting story, but I believe, if I remember Wikipedia, it was Yasser Serouan actually who organized this agreement. But there's something I think it was called like the Prague Agreement, where basically Kramnik, in order to unify the title, Kramnik would play the winner of the candidate cycle, which ended up being Leko, and then Kasparov would have to play Ponomarev in a match, the previous like FIDE world champion knockout winner. So I think he just only had to play the one match with Ponomarev, which ended up never happening.
Yeah, that's my point. Okay, I don't want to go off on a tangent. I apologize, but you're just hurting yourself when you don't do some stuff because you've got too much pride or too much anger, too much rage. You feel betrayed by Kramnik. Like, I don't know what was going on in his head, right? But you bring the guy up and then the guy's like, no, I don't want to play you anymore. But you're only hurting yourself. You're only hurting yourself. Yeah. And then he retires in frustration,
Yeah, it's really a bummer. Yeah. It's a bummer, too. I remember his last game, he lost to Topalov because he was already kind of in his head. He was retiring. Oh, man, I remember that well. That's 2003. Yeah. Okay. Whew. All right. So let's just say quickly here that Shirov wasn't mad. I would have been pissed. He ends up playing again, qualifies, and loses to Leko in these matches that then determine who gets to play. And Leko then also beats Topalov. Leko, by the way, when I was in Europe in the mid-90s, and he was just a kid, it was like everyone was like, oh no, this is the kid. This is the one who's coming.
Yeah.
Right? Leko, though, somehow never quite made it. And this match, I think, was I want to call this uninspiring. Kramnik, I feel, was not on the top of his game. And Leko wasn't actually at the top of his promise. And, it's the 7-7 thing. And then, come on, you guys, don't give me the 7-7. Don't give me the 7. It was dramatic in that Kramnik wins the final game, But yeah, I thought it was an uninspiring match. And it was just disappointing in so many ways, like Kasparov not being there. Still the hurt of Shirov being shafted, of Kramnik not being at the top of his game, of Leko not realizing his promise. So I'm going to put it uninspiring, but what do you guys think?
I put it uninspiring as well. Let's put it like this. Leko was rightly ranked number 10 in the world at the time. And throughout the match, he appeared to me as the favorite as I watched it live, to have like the initiative, to be calculating better than Kramnik. So that means to me that Kramnik played down to the level of number 10 in the world. This is also the first match that's getting really shortened, right? It's a 14-game match. The previous matches had shortened from 24 games to 20 games. Now it's then 14. It's eventually going to go down to 12. I think there's even one 10-game match maybe at some point, which is brutal. But yeah, and also I don't like this tied match either. Mm-hmm. And there are a couple great games in it and a lot of not great games. Leko didn't show enough ambition. He should have tried to put Kramnik away in the match and increase his lead instead of just saying like, 1 point's enough. And it's just lame.
All right, there we go.
Well, I guess it's going uninspiring. I personally like the match quite a bit. I would rank it as good. Mm-hmm. I think it could have been great, but some of the reasons you guys mentioned definitely takes it down for me. Like, yeah, perhaps both players not being in their best form, but I thought there were some very cool moments in the match. Like, I thought there were some good games. I feel like this is the match where preparation starts to really kind of like step up in terms of the role it plays in matches. And there's one very famous game where Kramnik essentially just walks into a losing position out of the opening because of a mistake in preparation. His team, I think specifically, it was Svidler. I apologize, Peter, if it was. But I think it was Svidler specifically who was responsible for the line. And he like analyzes it. The engine doesn't go deep enough. Kramnik just like blitzes this out over the board.
Analyzed it with the computer.
With the computer, yeah, exactly. Yeah. With so the engine's fault, truly. But just doesn't run the engine deep enough because it's a very complicated position. And then Leko refutes the analysis over the board and like wins beautifully as black in this Marshall game. So truly immortal game, I think, because of like, especially the impact that engines have now. This is like the last kind of David versus Goliath.
The last time a human out-calculated somebody's computer prep.
Yeah, and it's such a critical situation too. So I truly think that that game alone is like one of the greatest World Championship stories of all time. And then Kramnik having to win on demand in the last game, I think
it's a classic game.
That's always
great game.
Yeah, like he goes E4 and it's like, yeah, just great all around battle there. But yeah, it could have been better. And then it ends up tied 7-7. Kramnik retains the title. And then I guess looking back on history, Leko is not like Leko's an amazing player, but yeah, we would have rather seen Kramnik Kasparov again. Maybe Kramnik Shirov, I don't know. But yeah. So
yeah. Or Topalov, who inherited the number 1 ranking when Kasparov retired. He beat him in the last game and then went over 2,800 and was the top rated player in the world at the time. We do get that match.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this one was not the best match. It had 3 or 4 really good games and several games that were not good, where they were drawn pretty quickly, or there was this strategy of like trading directly into a 4 versus 3 endgame and then just sitting there and defending it. Onwards.
Okay. So one thing I want to say, just to frame this next one, is so Kramnik is definitely I would say, slipping a little bit, right, with this disease he's got going on. And he's now number 4, Topalov's number 1. Now let's talk about how it goes down. Topalov wins this tournament. Now, FIDE, I feel, is spinning its wheels. It was doing this nasty knockout thing to determine world champions that no one recognized. And then it was like, okay, we're going to do this tournament thing. Now, one of the things where I think Kramnik was a great sportsman is he said, all right, we're going to do this reunification match, and I will even sign on the paper that I am the challenger and that he is the champion, he being Topalov. Kind of like the way Lasker did the weird move. He was like, yeah, Kappa's the champion and I'm the challenger. And this is one of the reasons Agard will point to and be like, yeah, see, even Kramnik acknowledged that Topalov was this world champion. Now,
but he was just doing what was best, right? Like, even if it didn't make sense, like he was swallowing the pride or the rage or the stupid emotional stuff and just doing what was best.
Right. And let's just say the obvious, the fact that, it's not Kasparov who's holding essentially Kasparov's crown, and a Kramnik who is not as strong as he used to be is putting this whole thing. It means like, oh my God, FIDE now has the top person. And so you got to do something. You're actually in a situation of desperation. There's no PCA. There's no money. That's why this whole thing with Leko was kind of a weird thing anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And Kasparov's done. He's no longer in the picture, right? He's retired. So this is an amazing match. And I can remember this match vividly. This is one of the first matches, too, where we're starting to get live games and people following it. And there's a lot of interest. And of course, the big story is Toiletgate. And I remember I was very invested in this thing because it was actually the first big time claim of cheating. So Topalov accuses Kramnik of like going into the bathroom and whispering through the pipes. And it's this big scandal. And I was a huge fan of Kramnik at the time, huge fan. And so I was like, you can't say that. This is totally ridiculous. And Topalov has this nasty manager, dude. This nasty manager. And he's saying all kinds of stuff. And it's just out of line. It's breaking all protocol. It is an amazing match, though. And we have like game 1 was this just beautiful, interesting chess. Topalov misses a mate. He didn't do his Polkar mates, dude, so he doesn't win the match. He doesn't win the game. He didn't do his mates, dude. He didn't do his mates. And just a really tight match where all this drama, so much on the line. And, Kramnik, it ends up, it's this first one, which me and David hate, this thing where they decided on tie breaks. Of course, in the last match, we didn't like it either. That was decided with the winner, Kramnik, holding the title, kind of like in the days of Botvinnik. Yeah. But here's
you guys just want endless 5-month matches.
Yeah, apologies if we're difficult to please. We just want the players to play classical chess until they die. That's all. That's all that Jesse and I are really asking for. Is it too much?
Well, look, I know a lot of people out there are gonna be like, "Kraai, what are you talking about death?" So that's a little too much. But let me just put it this way: anytime you do anything in sport, and you want to push it to the very highest level, you are going to push your body and your mind to places where are probably unhealthy. That's just the way it is. Go Google the dude doing the 1,100-pound deadlift and see blood running out of his nose. Something's going to happen to you when you push the limit. And as a fan, I don't want you to die, but I want it to be pushing your limits, right? That's what I want in this world champion. This is the ultimate test. It's not just about your chess skills. It's how you take it as a person. How can you deal with the pressure? Okay. Yeah. Anyways, me and David don't like this rapid tie breaks, but that's the tradition that's now going to be going on from here on out, that we get this nasty thing that we're going to see in the Karjakin and the Fabi matches.
I mean, this match, you can score for Kramnik either way because in regulation, he won 3 games. Topalov won 2, and Topalov got a forfeit when Kramnik was so insulted by them talking about the bathroom stuff that he didn't show up for a game while arguing about the rules of whether or not people are going to be, inspecting his toilet as he played or as he went to it. So it definitely is a win for Kramnik, despite, I hate the rapid tie breaks. I hate the shorter matches, right? I think this match... Yeah, this is the one. It's only like 10 games. No, it's 11 games and a forfeit. Okay. Anyway, I hate that the match has gotten shorter again from 14 to 12. I hate the rapid tiebreak. The storyline's pretty great, though, and they're sort of reunifying the world title while splitting the chess world in a new way, because the cheating accusation and the toilet gate thing, makes people like Jesse and a whole camp of people say, like, we shouldn't shake Topalov's hand for the next 10 years, or anybody in Topalov's camp, or anybody who's a fan of Topalov's, anybody on his side of the chess world.
Yeah.
So it's taken very seriously, and it really splits things. It's got a great story to it. But honestly, I was tempted to call every single match from here on uninspiring or trash because of them being shorter, because of the rapid games. I hate it. None of these matches rock my world. They're always done too soon. Another thing I don't like about the shorter match is that we've seen already from the Kasparov-Kramnik match this idea that if you get ahead by one game, maybe you can draw out the match, right? That you don't really need a second win. And that's harder to put into practice if you've got a 20-game match. Because in a 20-game match, there's some part of you that knows, like, I'm going to get a bad position once or twice as black. I might miss one thing. So you might want to try and stretch your lead to 2 games or 3 games if you could. But once they're playing these 10-game matches and you're up a game, I mean, the idea of trying to win the second game is almost pointlessly risky to them, right? So that's another thing that the short matches do, is it collapses the match to be so short. Now that it's so hard to win games, you can't win 4 or 5 in a row like in 1900, right? Or in 1895. So the risk taking is just disappearing, right? Other than Topalov, who's like a madman. But most people are now going to play the matches a little bit more carefully and more circumspectly. And I hate that. And I think the short matches encourage that. Like, I don't disagree with the strategy the players are using. Honestly, Topalov looks like a lunatic next to a bunch of rational people, but I hate what the format's doing to it. So I wanted to call every single one of these matches uninspiring or trash. And I fought my bias as hard as I could and ranked this match here as good. That's was the most I could give. And what I'll say is there's a period here after Kasparov retires where the top 3 players are Kramnik, Topalov, and Anand. And you just want to see them play each other more and more and more, I think. And they're really close in level. It's hard to say who's going to win. There's no clear favorite. There's no huge blowout. So matches between these guys are going to be what you want to watch as a chess fan. And basically, I'd call it good. I want more. If they played another 10 games, I might call it great or even legendary. Who knows? But good for now. Most I can give.
All right, Kostya, where do you want to put it, buddy?
Yeah, so this match, this one was actually the hardest for me to rate it, because I think there are things that make it great, and there are things that just make it trash. Specifically like the drama, the cheating accusations. I mean, it's literally called Toiletgate, right?
Yeah.
To me, it's kind of a trashy match, but kind of in a great way. So that's why I'm really struggling with ranking it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ultimately, the match just leaves such a ugly taste in my mouth that I think I'm gonna rank it trash.
Dang.
Because I really disliked it, and you guys brought up a lot of stuff, but a couple other things I'll mention. I think Kramnik, straight up was being bullied by Topalov and his manager, and people in FIDE siding with Topalov and his manager, and they're kind of people are disrespecting Ding right now. They were doing that to Kramnik. They're like, oh, he's the world champion, but he's not the number 1 player. What's he doing? He can't win a tournament. Saying all this stuff, and then I think the reason Kramnik ends up forfeiting a game was because FIDE decides to shut down his bathroom and force him to use the public restroom, while Topalov gets to keep his private bathroom for the match. And so Kramnik's like, yeah, no, I'm not. We're not playing like that, right? So he just refuses to come down out of principle. Kramnik definitely, a person of his principles, as we can see.
As we can see.
And for me, I think I honestly don't remember most of the games. I think for me, I was just more focused on the drama of the match. I'm sure the games were good, but I found the Anand Topalov match much more interesting just looking back on it, as we'll talk about it soon.
I mean, the games were pretty good, and I agree with you that it was bullying. My understanding, which anyone who wasn't there could be wrong, my understanding is that Topalov just played the games. His manager Danilov did all the bullying basically, and Topalov was just like, I don't deal with that. That was like an arrangement that worked for Topalov, right? His manager deals with everything. He just plays chess.
He doesn't see it.
Think about it. He doesn't talk about it. He doesn't see it. Like, he just, okay, he just trusts it, right? The way a soldier like trusts the commanding to like an officer, and they don't have to think about it while they're whatever they're doing. But I think that Danilov sort of, my take on it is Danilov knew about Kramnik's condition. He knew that there's like a side effect of the medicine Kramnik's taking that forces you to go to the bathroom frequently. And so he's like making these accusations, not because he thinks that Kramnik is cheating, but because he knows it's like embarrassing and a way to just bully somebody.
Right.
So I really think it's just like the crudest, crassest, off the board warfare by Danilov. That's my take on that whole story.
Yeah,
and I don't even know what this. I heard that Kramnik was just he's either going to the bathroom a bunch or like smoking in there, but like whatever. Like I think it was like a medical thing, but yeah. So just nasty.
So where does that rank, Jesse, with the averaging out? Of
you guys got to do some math. I have it as great. Kostya has it as trash, dude. And you had it.
I have it as good.
Good, yeah.
So it'll average out to good then. You can place it in good.
All right.
Okay, cool.
An average that doesn't show how wild rankings were.
I'm going to say, guys, Topal, I remember watching that, and games 1 and 2 especially. That was amazing. What drama. That was great. Okay. Yeah. So then this weird thing happens that we just want to go over. So,
do you have a better thumbnail for that one? Sorry, I think that was the one where we have like 8 of them.
Okay, I'm going to fix that in a second. So then World Chess Championship 2007, we just got to mention. So they hold, it's really weird. Okay, it's really weird. It's hard even to explain. So FIDE is like, okay, we're going to do another one of these tournaments. And then the winner of that one gets to play Kramnik. Okay, weird. So Anand wins that, and then he gets to play Kramnik then in 2008.
Right.
Very weird. He
sort of counts as world champion as well in 2007.
Yeah, dude, the FIDE is, it's like
they don't call it a candidates tournament, right? That would make sense.
Right, dude. I mean, Kramnik just beat your boy, and then you're going to hold a tournament and call the winner of that one the world champion.
Yeah.
What, dude? He just beat your boy. So now, anyways, I thought Kramnik was, really a great sport through all this. He's dealing with his medical stuff, and then he just deals with it, dude. He just deals with it.
I do like how Kramnik just goes along with it, and he's just like, yeah, fine, this world championship match. Yeah, fine, Topalov's world champion. And then he just tries to beat them in a match, right? Obviously, he loses to Anand, but still, he's like, yep, no problem.
Yeah. And he played in the tournament, too.
Yeah.
He played in the world championship tournament, finished second behind Anand by 1 point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to fix that thumb, and you guys tell me where you want to put the World Chess Championship of 2008.
Okay, so Anand Kramnik. What stood out to me from this game was the chess content of Anand's Semislav, an opening that I had played for many years by this point, and that he was able to prepare such vicious play from the black side. I think was a big unexpected wrinkle in chess, because it got into a point where, people were more trying to hold with black and sometimes even hold with white. So I don't know. And the games were brutal. That said, it was too short a match for me. It was a good matchup. Number 1 versus number 3 by rating, but any match with Anand, Kramnik, or Topalov, they can't all 3 play in a match at once. So that's the top. And it's just a little bit too short for me. 3-1 for Anand with 7 draws. I rank it as a good match.
Okay. I'll put it as uninspiring. To me, it was like Anand's forte was this prep. I think that was where Peter Heine Nielsen was helping him for the first time. Maybe not for the first time, but anyways, it's a major role. And then, of course, Peter Heine is going to work for Magnus later. So it's a tale of opening prep and Kramnik no longer being at the top of his game. So to me, I'd put that as uninspiring. Kostya, to you.
Yeah, I ranked this match as great. Okay. I guess we're gonna average out to good. I quite like this match. It's got another like fantastic match strategy from Anand to take Kramnik into these super sharp positions as black, and ends up working out perfectly. Like it just ends up suiting Anand's style. He wins some nice games, ends up winning the preparation battle. But that to me is kind of a big deal because Kramnik was known for his very, very deep preparation, just like vast. So the fact that Anand kind of outdoes him there, I think is quite cool. And I thought it was just very high level from Vishy, and it's the start of the Vishy era, the Vishy dominance. So that's kind of fun, and that takes us all the way to Magnus. So it's kind of like a key. I feel like that is kind of a key turning point in the whole saga. And finally the reunification. It finally happens. Everyone's happy.
Also,
I'll just quibble.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to put in a little quibble with the word dominance.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a period, there was like a Kasparov era, which was dominance. There was a Magnus era, which was dominance.
Yeah.
And in between, you have a kind of parity between Kramnik, Topalov, and Anand, a triumvirate, like in ancient Rome. At some point they had that, right? 3 consuls.
Well, I think it's even wilder than that. I mean, at this point, 2008, Anand is number 5, and Kramnik has fallen all the way to number 6. So yeah, no, this is one of the weird things about this period. There's not I think what part of the thing, I don't want to upset the Vishy people, great player, okay? But one of the reasons he's not like, for me, this one of the greatest of all time is he wasn't dominant. He was not like number 1, like Carlsen all the time, or Fischer or something like that. No.
Mm-hmm. But he's stuck between Kasparov and Carlsen. It's hard to be, but it's like very bad time.
Let me argue, Jesse, I thought that Anand at the time of this match was number 1 and Kramnik number 3.
What I'm looking at, it's number 5 and number 6.
Okay.
Yeah. At the time.
I'm looking at a rating list from July 2008.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't think they've like super fallen. But they're not dominant.
Right. Okay. So then it gets even weirder. I don't know if it's weirder. So 2010, Anand is not dominant. At this point, he's number 4, playing Topalov, who's number 2. And they're going to play this 2010 match. I think at this point, I would have said Topalov was the favorite. Anand is at 40 years old. Topalov 35, but Topalov, he was playing. I mean, Topalov, besides the fact that I hate him and his manager, I will say in this period of like the 2000s and to this point, it was great. Oh, dude, it reinvented the exchange sacrifice. Amazing player. Yeah,
Topalov's play was very entertaining.
Yeah.
Still is, honestly, even in semi-retirement. This is the first match that I live commented almost the whole match, except for one opposite colored bishop ending, which I said was a draw and went off to lunch with the other folks from the GM house. And then when we came back, it had actually been decisive. So missed that. But I remember watching this live, and I had the same thought as you, Jesse, that I considered Topalov a little bit of a favorite going into the match. I thought he was the stronger player at that point, but maybe slightly wrong. This is a match which is a top matchup, although missing Magnus, right? By this point, Magnus is number 1.
Right.
And it's, and clear. It's clear that he's number 1.
Right.
And I think this is a match which is marred by it being a short match and it being tie breaks. So I think they play great, Anand and Topalov. But at the end of the match, Topalov considers Anand a big favorite in the rapid thing. So you start, and you're going to see this pattern at the end of all these two Magnus matches coming up, right? But Topalov considers Anand a big favorite in rapid chess, and so he goes all out with white in the last game and loses an equal game, right? So Anand wins in regulation, but kind of he wins in regulation because the match isn't long enough. Topalov gets desperate because of the rapid tie breaks. I would have to think that if the match were 20 games long, or if there weren't rapid tie breaks, Topalov would not have lost that game the way he did.
Right.
So blame the format. I still give it a good.
I think there was maybe a little bit more to that story, David. I remember I think it was Cheparinov on Perpetual Chess who revealed that the Topalov Anand rapid tiebreak was scheduled on the anniversary of the Topalov Kramnik rapid tiebreak, which Topalov lost. It was like on the same exact date, like September 7 or something. It just happened to be that by coincidence. And so Topalov was essentially superstitious because of that detail, because he lost the previous tiebreak. And then that's what kind of pushed them over the edge to just go all out in that. So it wasn't just that he maybe considered Anand a favorite in the rapid tiebreak, but okay, according to Cheparinov, it was also the date thing. But yeah, kind of interesting. You wouldn't think that would affect the match, but like, it's kind of...
In either case, it kind of mars a really excellent matchup and a bunch of good games.
A bit, yeah, a bit.
Also, David, I just want to mention, we were playing in France, that tournament we're hanging out at the Poet's House when Gado was playing Topalov, and Topalov beat him as the challenger to earn the right to challenge Anand. So that's kind of a fun memory too. Yeah.
So I thought this was a great match. I thought it's two very strong players and some great games. I remember a number of games from this match, and I thought there was some, fun. I mean, some fun stories. It's like the beginning of the match was postponed because a volcano erupted in Iceland and blew out like the airfields for all of Europe. So a bunch of flights got canceled.
Anand's flight was canceled. Yeah.
And then Vishy had to travel by train for 48 hours to get to the match. And then I think I was also like you guys thinking Topalov was stronger, but then I remember Topalov wins this first game basically with prep. Like Vishy mixes up his prep, gets crushed, and then Grunfeld.
Yeah.
But then the second game, Vishy just immediately bounces back and wins on demand in a Catalan, where it was, he had nice prep, but he really just kind of just technically converts against Veselin. And then I thought, I was like, okay, you know what? Now I kind of felt like Vishy's the favorite, because when you just strike back immediately and it's you don't win because of your prep, you just win because you outplay the person. And it's I kind of feel like he was the favorite after that. It's also such a nice momentum shift. Okay, you won, but then you don't even get to enjoy it. Your opponent just wins the next game. But yeah, so I don't know. I found that I found that match quite interesting. And then the last game I think is kind of epic just because of the whole story, and the way Vishy wins is also very nice.
Yeah, and we should also mention that this should have been Carlsen playing this match. I think we already and Carlsen not playing, it's kind of there's this weird similarity of Fischer, because there was that time where Fischer didn't play in the 60s, and it was why aren't you playing? And he had this weird argument that's a little bit as weird as it is now as to why he's not playing. So
I think it's a bit early for Magnus. I know he drops out of the next cycle.
Yeah.
But this one, I feel like he only hit number one in 2010.
He's 28. He's 2802.
2009.
He's 2802 rated in November 2010.
Yeah, but of course, I mean, the cycle is long. So before that, going into the cycle, he wasn't
going into the cycle. He might not yet have been clearly number one.
Yeah.
Everybody at that point knew that this kid was the next one. Everybody knew, and he was the one who made the choice not to play. So I'm just saying, it's got to be mentioned as a mar on this.
But I thought he did play. Isn't it the next one that he skipped?
No, this is the one that he's
But I didn't me personally. I didn't hold it against the two Spassky Petrosian matches. The fact that Fischer was the best player in the world at that time. I just they're good players. They're playing a good match. So I note that Magnus is not there, but I don't demote the match too much over that. These players were good players, they're top 3. So
actually, I want to amend. Kostya is absolutely right. It was the next one. It did happen in 2010 though, because it was that tournament, and so he went out. That was ridiculous. So I take it back. Because the next one is, oh my God, the next one, uninspiring, bro. Okay, but we first have to agree. Kostya said this thing was great.
I call it good.
I would call it uninspiring. So I guess it's going in the good.
Average to good.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we get to Anand Gelfand 2012, 10 draws, 1-1, rapid, number 4 player in the world versus number 20 player in the world. Magnus unfortunately replaced in the candidates by Grishuk, who just drew every match and played rapid tiebreaks in the candidates as well. This is just the World Rapid Championship for 2012, and I don't like rapid chess as much. Trash.
I guess this is the only World Championship I could be swayed to put in uninspiring, but yeah, as a fan too, it's these two ancient dudes. And every chess fan is like, these people don't belong here. What is this going on? This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where's Magnus?
Challenger next to Gelfand's name. You're like, did somebody write something wrong? Like, that's like an oxymoron. Like, somebody got challenged by Gelfand?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's quite sad. Yeah, this whole cycle was unfortunate because as Jesse was saying, like Magnus drops out of the cycle, despite being the number 1 player, because he doesn't like the format. It's like three short matches, like World Cup style matches, and then you play the champion. And then to FIDE's credit, they did change the system after he drops out, and then they gave Magnus his candidates tournament the very next year, 2013. Which he ends up, participating in and winning and so on. But yeah, that cycle was rough. And those candidates matches in Kazan, I remember, people being very upset that Grishuk was like cynically drawing his games with white in like 10 moves and then beating Aronian in the tie breaks, beating Kramnik in the tie breaks. And then somehow loses to Gelfand. And then, there's like this whole thing. It's like, there's no Magnus. And with all due respect, Gelfand, amazing player, but doesn't feel like he was the proper challenger that year. He just ended up winning. The format that FIDE happened to have. It wasn't a great format, I think, looking back on it. And then the match itself was truly tragic for me because there was like so many short draws, and a lot of the games I remember following it live. I was very excited for this match, but I remember following it live, and a lot of games would end immediately after the opening stage, because someone equalized with black and then the other player was like, okay, I guess it's equal now, offer a draw. And then that was it. It's like both players would just try to get an edge with white. And if it didn't happen, because the other side was well prepared, then they would just kill the game immediately. And so a lot of games were just uninteresting or killed out of the opening. And then Gelfand finally wins the game and then like wakes Vishy up. And then Vishy just wins like the very next game in like 17 moves. It's just, Vishy's like, okay, I guess I have to win a game now because I'm behind in the match. And he just wins immediately. And it's like, where was this earlier? And then, it ends up deciding the rapid tiebreak. I think that's fine, whatever. But not a great cycle, not a great match. I think just trash. Great players, bad match.
And one interesting thing would be comparing this match to the Janowski match for the worst match.
So this one also has a little bit of an echo to the match we're about to face, because Magnus, December 2012, has a rating of 2848. Then it's Levon, and who's at 28-15. Anand is at number 6, and then you got to start going way down, find Gelfand at number 14. So, clearly not the best players in the world playing for the World Championship. And let me just say, the problem with the World Championship happens when you get this situation where you have number 23 in the world playing for the World Championship. It's a problem.
Yeah. Now, I think a World Championship shouldn't just be number 1 versus number 2. It should be an event that people can compete in to get to the top. But your format, it's not that Gelfand played some amazing chess that year that broke all like expectations for Gelfand, right? It's just the format sucked. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. No, he had a good run in the kind of World Cup style candidates.
Okay, my friends, then we get to 2014. There we go, buddy. Excuse me, 2013.
2013, right. The first,
I
Carlsen
remember
and match.
game 8, I was doing commentary at Mike Klein's house. That was fun. We did that. That was a great game. That was a great, beautiful game. I'm going to put this in the great category, even though I feel like Anand, there's no way he was up for the challenge. I mean, Carlsen was such a better player already at that time. But still, like, Anand was trying to do his tricks with his prep and everything. And there was some great games in there. So to me, it was great. Also, and then we have a changing of the guard, the beginning of the Carlsen domination, which I think should have happened earlier. Carlsen should have assumed the crown earlier, but still, this is the beginning of it.
Here it is, the 10-game match. How can you even call it a world championship match? They used to play candidates matches that were longer than this.
Yeah, I mean, Carlsen didn't even come close to dying. He jumped in a pool, but come on. That's not death.
No. He cruised through the whole thing.
I would say this was a great match, mainly because it's like the coming of Magnus. It's just like everyone was expecting it, and he almost didn't win the candidates. So it was a very good candidates too.
That's
I don't know if
true,
that affects the ranking, but one of the best candidates. And then I thought, like, okay, first couple of games in the match were a little bit nervy, but then Magnus starts taking over and showing why he's number one. He wins some very nice end games. And I just thought it was like it happened as it was supposed to happen, just a great story.
All right, David, you want to downgrade it though, right?
Yeah, of course. The best you could call it would be good, but I put it as uninspiring. It's one-sided. It's too short. Where's the interest? We already know that he's the best. It's been a couple of years. If you wanted this match to be interesting, you needed to play it 4 years before. At this point, like, foregone conclusion. It's like putting a stamp on Magnus's world championship title.
Yeah. Okay.
Somebody forgot some bureaucrat forgot to stamp.
It's going down. By the way, I misrecall. I said game 8. It was game 9. In any case, it's going then to averaging to good. And then we're going to go on to 2014.
Rematch.
And we get some rematch. Give me a break or not. It's time to retire, buddy. And so I'm going to put that in the uninspiring there. Kramnik, Anand, number 2.
Okay. The only good thing to be said about this match, well, I guess you could say 2 things, but to me, the only really good thing to say about this match is that Anand won the candidates, which was really impressive for a 44-year-old in the sort of modern chess era to win a candidates tournament.
Yeah.
Woo! Oh, mama, that was impressive. The rest of the match, uninspiring. 3-1.
I would say it's.
We knew Carlsen was going to win. Meh.
No. I just want to say I thought it was a good match, but it wasn't my favorite opponent. We saw Carlsen Anand in 2013, like we saw what happened, and then Vishy wins the candidates 2014. It's like it's great for Vishy, really great, but like I really wish it was Carlsen Aronian, 2014. I think that was the match everyone really wanted to see.
Yep.
Even Carlsen Kramnik back then would have been super, super interesting. But the rematch was not I think what the fans were really wanting. I will say though, the interesting thing about this period is that I believe this is the only rematch that we had. We had 2 Carlsen Anand matches, and that was it. Every other match was unique.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Also amazing. Anand racked up 6 of the matches that we consider world championship matches, to say nothing of whatever he did with FIDE during the split period. Lots of world championship experience.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, now we're going to come to the 2 wretched matches where Carlsen, Karjakin, Carlsen, Caruana, they follow the same template. We have an even score, and then Carlsen's like, you know what, I think I'm going to win this on a rapid, and that's exactly what happens. I would say the only interesting thing about Carlsen Karjakin is the question for me of whether Karjakin was taking mind-enhancing drugs to elevate his performance. I don't know. I think it's an interesting topic. That's the first match I was like, he's on something. I want to know what it is. I want access to that drug. But otherwise, not an interesting match. And so I'm just going to put both of them up there at the same time. Carlsen, Karjakin, 2016. Carlsen, Caruana, 2018 is uninspiring. Yeah, the whole rapid thing, horrendo.
Don't look to me to change your rankings.
Okay, I will try. I'll attempt. Let's go one at a time. Carlsen, Karjakin, 2016. I mean, I don't know. For me, it certainly is biased because I grew up watching Carlsen play. And so like I've watched him become world champion and go from world champion to like, possibly greatest player of all time. And his story, I mean, his legacy has been amazing. So for me, anytime Magnus plays chess, honestly, it's fascinating to watch one of the greatest ever play. Right? Like we always lament that Fischer didn't play more. And here with Carlsen, like we get to watch him play. We still get to watch him play. It's amazing. So for me, the Carlsen-Karjakin match, I thought was very interesting. There wasn't a lot of decisive games, but that's mainly because Karjakin just defended well. Like Carlsen had like a number of like good positions in the first half of that match, and he just like couldn't break through and couldn't like Magnus him. And Karjakin held on. He ends up winning a game. Then Magnus has to win a game, like fight back, and then he wins this rapid tiebreak. Which I get you guys don't like, but I think that was a good tiebreak match. Like Karjakin has always been considered one of the best blitz and rapid players in the world. So it's not like Carlsen was just such a huge favorite in the rapid tiebreak. But he ends up winning quite handily. And then it ends with like one of the greatest moves like in a match ever, like Queen H6 check, just beautiful, immortal finish to a match.
I mean, good for memeing an idiot on Twitter, but not like the World Championship matches we've been discussing for 3 episodes.
No,
like,
objectively a great, amazing position to end. Just,
I mean, you could find it in a Polgar book. Come on.
Denigrating the
fact
Polgar
that he finds it in rapid with like seconds on his clock, and you already calculated the thing, and it's like just bang,
Okay, David, are you swayed?
You would have found it in a Puzzle Rush yourself.
Okay. David, are you swayed by his arguments? No. Okay, let's move on.
So lame.
I want to say about Carlsen Nepo.
That's fine. Wait. What are you talking? We didn't even talk about Carlsen Caruana.
Oh yeah, well, it's the same template. Me and David are on the same page over here. It's the same thing. It's the same match.
That doesn't make any sense. The Carlsen Caruana match for me is truly epic. Mm-hmm. So I just want to give my spiel on it because we finally get Carlsen Caruana, the match that people have been wanting at this point since 2014. So like for 4 years. We were talking about in previous shows how it was like such a shame that like Lasker and Tarash didn't play earlier. Mm-hmm. And like there's all these matchups that we missed out on. We ended up getting a Carlsen Caruana match, and it was a great match. I followed like every game like live, just like watching it live. It was great to see. There was like multiple games that could have been decisive. I thought the rapid tiebreak was cool. So yeah, to me, like seeing Carlsen play like one of his greatest challengers in a full match. I get it wasn't like a long match we would have preferred, but it's the modern era and we get what we get. Honestly, I think if it was 24 games, like there would have been a lot more draws in those remaining 12 games. It's not like we would have gotten like, a ton of decisive action.
Yeah, I think for those guys, they needed to play first player to win 2 games. They might still be playing now.
So yeah, it was first to 2 wins. So for me, that match was epic, not just because of the matchup, but also like the level of play was amazing. It was like most accurate match of all time. And just like really interesting chats, like interesting openings. Like there were some Petrovs. Okay, there were some Petrovs, but there weren't any Berlins. There weren't any Berlins. It was like a lot of fighting chess from both sides. So hopefully that pushes it up in the out. I'm definitely going epic on this. For me, this is clearly the second best match of the list.
I think you're just stuffing ballots here, Kostya. There's no way you think it's epic. Maybe you think it's kind of good.
Yeah, come on, you're stuffing ballots, buddy.
No, I think it's the second best match we have. Absolutely. I followed every move live of this match. Like, what do you guys talking about? I followed
every move live of every single one of these matches from this decade, right?
Well, and it's a shame you weren't inspired by that.
And as a professional player, I found it interesting. Yeah. But I can't imagine that many non-professional players found it interesting.
I think there was a ton of hype for the match. I don't know.
Okay. We won't ballot stuff, David, because we could go trash just to make, downgrade this thing. But all right, he's going to move it up to good then. That's what
I'm holding back.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I'm just giving my genuine, these are my rankings before we had the show.
Okay.
So,
maybe you should.
I'm sorry you guys don't like the 12 draws.
Your ballot, Kostya.
It's fantastic. I mean, we have the greatest player of all time being held to a drawn match. I think it's very tough.
You know what? Maybe if he was held to a drawn match, it's a clue that he was not the greatest player of all time.
Okay, time out. We're going on to Carlsen Nepo. I actually thought this was a good match. I enjoyed watching it. There was some great chess. It was kind of like actually what I would have expected.
Wait. Sorry. Jesse.
Yeah.
For your rankings. Sorry, I'm looking at my actual ballot.
Yeah.
I had Carlsen Karjakin as trash and Carlsen Caruana as trash. They were not uninspiring on my scorecard.
Okay. What do you want me
Where
to
does that put things? I had them both as trash.
Oh, okay. Well, then they go down to uninspiring. Because Kostya put it as epic. So unless you want to do some math or something, I think they.
If he has epic, then it still comes out to good.
It would be 8 divided by 3. Okay. So it'll still be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Carlsen Nepo, I did enjoy, even though it was a kind of a blowout. I thought there was some great chess. People were really pumped on it. I want to say that was like one of the first matches where it was like the level of interest was great. I thought the games were interesting. And honestly, when we talk about like the why Carlsen, Karjakin and Carlsen, Fabi were not great matches is because Carlsen didn't show the player that he was. Mm-hmm. And I think it was like those matches should have looked like Carlsen Nepo. And that's what Carlsen's whole thing, unfortunately, this is the match he goes out on. So I'm going to put it as good. That was a good match with Carlsen Nepo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was a good match. I do think both Carlsen and Caruana played fantastic in 2018, and also it should be said that in 2019 they both went on to have like amazing years because of the preparation they put in for 2018. Like Carlsen had one of his best years ever. Caruana had one of his best years ever. The 29, the both of them just like dominated chess, which was great to see.
Totally true.
And yeah, Carlsen Nepo, I'd say good match. For me, it's not as epic, but yeah, it was good.
So first of all, this match is a blowout, right? It's a 4-0 where Nepo's sort of falling off the rails and Magnus is just kind of smacking him, right? I enjoyed it. A lot of people don't like blowouts. I enjoyed this one, but I still gave it overall uninspiring. It's kind of short, one-sided, not really epic enough. It's fun. It's like watching a cheap TV show, right? Or reading a trashy novel. It's fun, but I don't know. Not deep enough.
Okay. So ding Nepo. I'm going to put it in either uninspiring or trash, dude. That's where it's going to go. The obvious problem is Carlsen isn't there, and it's obvious. There's other ones where it's like, the top guy's not there. This one's like so obvious. And honestly, well, the obvious thing that I could do is I could just leave it off the list and not consider it a world championship match. That's the other obvious thing I could do. So actually, I think I'm going to vote for that. I'm going to say, let's leave it off the list.
Wow. That's a very low ranking. I mean, we agreed to rank it in advance. I thought, no, maybe we didn't. But okay, so I understand there's this like thought that Ding didn't really qualify for the match and Carlsen withdrew. And so what is it? I actually thought this match was better than all the Carlsen matches. I ranked it as good because at least, you didn't know for sure who was going to win in advance and some blood was spilled. I would say it has a much lower level of play. Maybe everything I say makes no sense. It has a much lower level of play than these Carlsen matches, which I rank lower. But at least It was exciting.
I think like college basketball can be very exciting, dude. I think it can. But the reason there's a pro game is like the world championship is because those are the better players, you know? So
Understood.
yeah. I think also it's something at the time I debated with myself. Of course, we covered the match and there were moments of excitement by all means. But I debated at the time whether it was a world championship. And now, especially with the 23rd in the world thing, I'm just like, nah, dude, I can't. In a retrospect, it's not a world championship.
How would you rank this one, Kostya?
Yeah, I had it as uninspiring for a lot of the reasons you guys brought up. Magnus not playing. And then the match itself, like, it wasn't, I don't remember it having like great chess, even though it was like so recent. I remember like Ding getting criticized a lot for his like bad play and then Nepo squandering some positions.
Yeah.
And it ends up being decided in this like very nervy tie break.
Yeah.
And now, of course, we've seen what's happened to Ding, and that's very sad. So for me, it's like, yeah, this whole Ding world champion era is very uninspiring in general. I think the next match, though, is going to be great. I'm hoping. I'm hopeful.
You mean the one in 2 years or the one in a week?
The one in a week that's about to happen. I mean, that's why we're doing this, to rank all these matches, kind of give us a context of how good this next one's going to be.
Can I just say, I
almost don't want to watch it.
My hope is that it goes like this. Gukesh is going to win this match, and then I don't know how it would happen, but I think negotiations could be started for Carlsen to be like, look, I'm going to retire probably soon. Let me have a shot at the kid. Let's call it a world championship, and then we'll go from there. That would be the way I would like to see it. It's not really a world championship. Do I believe in Gukesh? Yes, I believe in Argaisi too. So I believe in all kinds of these young kids. So we can start talking to them as world championship contenders for sure. It's just that we need that in the same way that we needed the reconciliation after Kasparov blew it. Now we need the reconciliation after Carlsen blew it.
They don't even need to call it a world championship match. They just need to play a long match without any blitz games in it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the fans will do the rest for them.
Yeah, for posterity, there needs to be, a 20 to 50 game match between Gukesh and Carlsen. And then we can look at the games for the next 20 years and talk about how good they were. And, it'll give us some data on, how long Magnus maintained his top level and whether he was one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah. No, I mean, and they're running out of time too. I think Emil Satovsky's the guy. I think he can talk to both parties. Just like start with Magnus. Don't even talk to Gukesh. Will play Magnus. He has too much respect, so he'll play anytime. Talk to Magnus first. Be like, would you play a match with Gukesh? And because there'll be a lot of money in it. Get a yes from Magnus, then go to Gukesh's side, get a yes from them, and then make it happen. Partner up with chess.com, make it happen. We're running out of time. We don't want another Lasker Tarash 1908 situation. And then history is crying, for the rest of the time. The world is crying. We definitely don't want like a Fischer Karpov, a match that just never happens that we would have loved to see. So Magnus, Gukesh, you guys love history. Make it happen.
All right. Yeah. To conclude this show, I want to say that we are going to do a special little episode where we are going to rank our top 5 personal world championships, and then we're going to do the dojo way, where we're going to then average it out to come with a dojo average, which is more accurate than just the personal score.
All right, you got to put the last match on there, Jesse. I think I called it uninspiring. David said good.
Trash.
So,
I got a negative. I put a negative score onto it. So,
really negative. Wow.
We can put it up here, dude. Uninspiring. Fine.
That's more valid stuffing than.
All right. All right. It's uninspiring then. It's uninspiring.
Let's recap for the podcast. So we have one match in the S tier, Kramnik Kasparov 2000. 0 matches that were great. 0. I ranked several matches as great. So I think in general, I just like this period more than you guys do is what I'm getting.
That's an interesting, because I just want to say for sure, this period compared to other periods of world championship matches is much worse. Much worse.
Yeah.
Oh, I would say the second period by far the best.
Yep.
But I like this one a lot more than the first, I would say.
For all the negative things we said about FIDE, our quote unquote FIDE era, right, had by far the best world championship matches. By far.
True. And then we got a bunch of matches in the good and uninspiring category, and then only one match in the D column, the trash, which is Anand Gelfand 2012. Again, with all due respect. Okay.
All right, that was great.
Wow.
All right. We'll see you on the next episode to talk about the top 5 overall. We're going to separate out from the legendaries which one, or from the epics, which one was truly the best.